Well, I inherited the house Ivy Lodge from my mother, and when I had come back from England and went up to see her, I found the lower outhouse, mason working there. So I said, Ma, why are you doing this? Because you got enough space here. And then she smiled. She said, when you don't get on with me, maybe your friends can come and be there and have a studio, so you'll spend more time here. So it was a little, whatever it is, some pre thing that this house, beyond its physical, the main bungalow, the outhouses will come into use. So, which they did. So in 75, when she died in Kasauli, uh, I asked my father, I would like to start these workshops. So he was, very open and benign person. And he more or less said, this house didn't belong to me, it belonged to your mother. But it's nice you're asking me. And of course, you must do what you want to do with it. So the idea of starting a summer workshop got into my head, and I thought, let me make it a little formal, and therefore I set up this committee with B.N. Goswami, K.G. Subramaniam, Geeta Kapoor, my father sweetly was the treasurer. So it sort of became a semi-formal institution. We got a proper bank account. And then I had approached Dr. Goswami that we're doing this, and of course there was that reference to the Kashmir summer camps, but they were under the Lalit Kala, and Santosh had initiated them. So that was one broad thing, that in the mountains, artists go up and in a retreat and make art. 75, I started, talking and bringing people together, and informally, discussed it with some other members that who all should be invited. So that's how 1976 took place. I got across to you some aspects of the nature of the spontaneity of the Kasauli art camp, and that there was no agenda in a manner of speaking. I mean, there was a broader emergence of narrative painting, the group's 74 exhibition, which signaled, a new kind of figuration, and then subsequently Place for People, and how that played itself out in Kasauli as well. So it set a tone of the possible activities that could emerge. Now, in the beginning, the infrastructure was very meager, very small, but I must say the informality and the openness of artists, to sleep and be anywhere. And literally, if I start telling you, Neelam Mansingh was put in a room, bathroom as big as that, and she came with a suitcase that size. Or Geeti said was again put in a toilet, and bed was there, everything was there. And I even put my dear father in a small ante room, because the main room which he used, was for some foreign guests. So I think that this openness of sharing, of giving, of dialoguing, there was very little acrimonious. Some tensions there were there, no doubt. But I think the hospitality in a home is very different, and it has, a history. My mother was there, built it up, and whatever, quote unquote, Amrita Sher-Gil was never there. But it's always thought that Amrita Sher-Gil, partly the carpet and all, that she did live here. So I think that the generosity which I'm speaking about, and also the artists one selected, we had a formal committee, as I said, with Dr. Goswami, K.G. Subramaniam, Ghulam Sheikh, etc. That it was very impromptu. I would suggest the names, Dr. Geeta, a few others, and we come up about seven, eight people could be easily there. But bit by bit, from 7, 8, it became 8 and 10 and 12. But then there was some rooms for the mason had started a small uh, mushroom cultivating thing. So a set of rooms on the upper level, got converted for rooms to stay. Well, the duration, 3 weeks sort of seemed an okay thing, but then there was one workshop which went on for almost 5 weeks. What reason, I don't know, but it did go on, and I think that's the time when Ramachandran was there, 77. There were more people, and it just grew a little bit more. Uh, yeah, the family thing was that if some artist said that we need to bring our family, then we said our friend Bhupen Kakar was very happy, particularly that there were children. But yeah, I think something of the informality of it, and that the production was important, but the talking, the laughter, the drinking, living there was part of it. There was no, I would organize whatever amount of paper and paints and materials that people wanted and needed. I would organize that, some welder coming there or some wood being brought, and then the canvases, of course. I get the stretchers from Delhi, and so people did that, and yeah, I think that it was just, you're to so many, artists from Daya Mehta and Christian Khanna, paint in their drawing rooms or in their bedrooms. So this notion of having a separate studio to make your artwork, you paint it as in that picture. Christian is on the ground and he's painting his painting. So I think this ease and informality is there in Indian artists now. Of course, it's changed a lot. Artists become very professional, but also of about not considering that the value of the work, that it wasn't also priced that much, so people were easy about giving it, and that whatever basic things that were there, they were happy. You shared a bathroom, 2, 3 people shared a bathroom, so that very simple infrastructure allowed all this to happen. The university museum did have some reasonable base of paintings. It's not that it was only done by amateurs. From Dr. Goswami to Dr. Bhattacharya to whoever was advising what kind of paintings that were being done. And they had got them, at the rate that they could get them for. So when I approached Dr. Goswami, and then the negotiations were more done with Bhattacharya, he said, yeah, 10, 12,000 we can manage, and if we show the university that we've got, 5, 6 paintings which are worth 3 times that, then of course they accepted it. So it was quite easy to get that across, and then whatever other money I put, to build it up. And I think that many of the artists came on their own, even if they wanted some, fair, we would arrange it. But it was basically telling them that we have very little money, and would you contribute? So would you come to Kasauli on your own? So I think in the beginning it was just that. So it covered really the eating and drinking.
My politicization had taken place in Pune and this kind of student at the student stage. And then we had moved to Bombay in 74, 75, and I continued my contact with the group of people who ran this left magazine, and I wrote for them. I contributed art, like sketches and things like that, all that. So I came, and then, of course, this was like at the beginning of my uh, work as a painter. I started painting in 70, but so it was only around 75 that I seem to have, found myself in some sense. So, and my first exhibition took place in 1979, Jan. That was in Delhi in Art Heritage. So, this period was very much kind of uh, early period for me, you know. And till then, till I came to Kasauli for the first time, my exposure had been, I did not go to art school, so I did not have a circle of friends from art school, artist friends. So there were people that I contacted to show my work and, so few friends like that. So that was the art circle that I basically moved in. And so when I came to Kasauli, it was like at many levels, uh, it was like a completely like an opening up of a completely new world, you know, because Pune and Bombay both, and my own middle class upbringing, and then this kind of contact with all the others in the group that in Pune and in Bombay were also middle class intellectuals who were like trying to get in touch with other classes, working for the trade unions or working for Adivasis. So that was the kind of background. And Kasauli, in many senses, opened up a very different uh, kind of level of culture, let's say, and also of intellectual engagement, you know. So, though in while in Pune and then in Bombay, one was reading apart from the normal Marxist literature, like the Frankfurt School and people like that, one was getting familiar with and knowing the new developments in Marx, reading Freud, reading Wilhelm Reich, all that. So that was like, I mean, one had a kind of intellectual introduction to those subjects. But coming to Kasauli, somehow I felt for myself was like getting into some kind of first-hand contact with a larger cultural, European culture for one, and generally a larger Indian cultural context. So it was very much like an opening up of horizons, and very important for my own understanding and evolution.
This has a longer history because I think it was Shankar Chaudhary, the artist, the sculptor Shankar Chaudhary, who initially mooted the idea of an artist, what used to be called camp in those days. And I think this was first done in Kashmir. And then I think there was more than one in Kashmir, but I may have it wrongly. But the idea of meeting in a beautiful place to get to know each other, to work together, then became a kind of convention in the art world. And I think uh, the, the kind of relationships and the texture of the relationships that built through these camps are quite special and unique to us in India. In fact, I think that's what I was talking about. The German artists who came responded to that in a huge way because it was the idea that you go to a lovely place, you live together, you work together, and you remain friends. And so the network of our kind of between us of the art world and later on the extendedly the theatre and other academic world and all that became a way in which we operated, we thought. I mean, I'm just trying to think back that when Germany, which is a smaller country than ours, uh, they would barely know who was in the other city, the artists. Whereas here we were friends already before we went. We were all from different parts of the country, but we were friends already before we left. And I think so this notion of the camp or workshop found a new kind of avatar in Kasauli. and which enhanced the whole idea because it was not only a beautiful place, it was a home, beautiful home in a beautiful place, and it was something that we could bring our children to. They would enjoy being there. It was something that um, gave you other kinds of ways of using one's inhibitions to respond to it.
Now, the first time that I met Gita and Vivan was also very interesting. That was the inaugural evening of the Place for People exhibition in Bombay. And this was basically because Arun Khopkar knew Bhupen Thakkar. And he said, "You must come, and there is this thing." And now I had heard of Geeta Kapoor from a rather strange context, which is that F.N. Souza, used to mention her a lot in early writings. And I was a journalist, and New Delhi had carried some of Souza's writings. And I remember sort of sitting at the Place for People inaugural event and nudging Arun Khopkar and saying, "Is that Geeta Kapoor?" She was sitting and speaking in a very close way with Mulkraj Anand, and they were talking to each other. And he said, "Yes, I think so." Then we met Gulab Sheikh, Sudhir Patwardhan, and Vivan sort of, he befriended me. He invited me to a couple of events that were taking place in Bombay. And we had a couple of quite long and involved conversations at that point in time. The main point was a standard thing saying our problems are very similar, which were really aesthetic problems, the problems of realism, the problems of a certain kind of invention of the avant garde, a new way of conceiving certain things, which was very interesting because actually there was, there was on the one side the Marathi theatre, which was in a sense for me very much the avant garde. There was the New Indian cinema, which was also the avant garde, but there was a political movement at that time, the Students' Anti-Fee Rise Action Committee and so on, very Bombay, which were all part of a certain set of clutch of concerns, the Committee for the Protection of Democratic Rights, and so on, for a certain idea of radical art practice. That there was a potential connection between those concerns on the one hand and what they were talking about in Delhi on the other was genuinely new. It was not something I was aware of. So that when the Kasauli invitation arrived for both Arun and me, and then we traveled, I remember, on the AC three-tier from Bombay to Delhi, and then we went all the way to Kasauli. There was really a kind of a sense of doing something, going into a frontier zone, of saying, now can I hold my own? Can I hang in there? Can I manage this particular journey? Because it did seem like a journey into a space that really was new to me.
You want to ask my questions about the camp experience? Well, it is like 40s of college days. You do so many good things, bad things, childish things. We are all young artists. So in a sense, there was a joy of getting together because we were all, in a sense, beginners of Indian art scene at that time. So the age group is more or less same. And everybody was trying to get a foothold in the art scene. And then Vivan, being a very efficient organizer, and plus he had this visual arts in Kasauli. So he asked us to go there, and he is very efficiently managed that period of time, almost a month. That's what I remember. I don't know if it's good or bad for the camp to have people of different temperament. Now that is a very tough job actually. Each artist is an individual with an inflated ego, so it's very difficult to each artist to accommodate the other person's point of view. And also sometimes even the day-to-day habits too much. Some people get too drunk. Some not doing that much. Some would like to talk too much, some would not like to talk that much, and things like that. So, in essence, it's like a chidiyaghar with all kinds of artists, of different temperaments living together. So, in a sense, I think it must be Vivan's experiment how to bring the diverse elements of Indian art together into a single platform, I suppose. But the fact that he went into an arrangement with Dr. Goswami to get a sponsorship for his camp, and in return, Dr. Goswami his vision was good to collect contemporary Indian art for the museum. So to me, that is much more relevant than the Kasauli campus. We went to a called Golden Triangle of Moscow to a church, a beautiful small church. In that church, I was horrified to see so many poor people sitting outside with hats stretched up, begging. Now that brought me back exactly to Shielda station, where I saw the refugees of partition staying. Second thing is, when I went inside, there was a baptism ceremony going on. And the people who are doing it were poor farmers. Poor. There was immense sadness in their face. And but it's a beautiful church. It's full of stained glass windows. And then a Christ looking down from the down. It's a typical, Byzantine Christ doing. And so these are the impressions I reworked for Dostoevsky. I thought Dostoevsky is actually sitting among those persons, not in his house, which they have kept it as a museum. And the sadness of those persons reflected in the sadness when you read Dostoevsky. So I thought I must do a large portrait of Dostoevsky. That's how I did that. So I combined the people who are sitting there, persons, sketches I sent it to everyone. I placed Dostoevsky in the middle. And the rest of the stained glass windows I copied. And instead of Christ looking down, I made Lenin looking down. So that is what I did. So that is the way.